Hey guys, RC here, back with another edition of WWCF Radio. Second episode for WWCF Radio. Not a lot going on here in the intervening weeks since our debut edition. Not sure how much interest it actually garnered, but hey, we'll give it a try for a little while. We are getting into the heart of recruiting season here, and so wanted to, well, let's see, current season here, and let me open up another episode of that window. All right. So basically, let's go ahead and dive in here. Let's start looking in the Atlantic East. We are three sims in. We've started seeing some players sign. So over in the Atlantic East, the top player is quarterback Banda, is heading over to Virginia Tech. This one hit me close to home because this was a player that I was after with one of my programs. And also Franco, another top-notch quarterback in the country, number 3 at the quarterback position. He's heading over to Maryland, so it appears that Darren and the Flying Turtles will not miss a beat in their air raid attack. Somebody pointed out that he's only lost 2 games in the last two or three seasons. Somebody needs to figure out how to stop his offense and then share it with the rest of us. Maryland also got on the board with the number 2 overall defensive tackle in the country in Carroll. And that appears to be the only signings over in the Atlantic East. Nobody else farther down. Of course, the top players, Bowman, Schwantz, Young, are still on the board. Where they'll go, nobody knows. Moving over to the Southeast, our top recruits have fallen to Florida. Wilson and Smith, both Florida prospects, staying in state with the Gators. That's got to be good for that program and bad for everybody else, especially down in the SEC. McQuay is the top player on the board at that the cornerback, and Robles, a Mississippi kid, 5'9", could be a concern, but still very talented. Those are our top 2 prospects on the board out of the Southeast region. Bama's gotten on the board with a JUCO defensive tackle, number 1 defensive tackle in the country. Let's see. Oh, in the region, I'm sorry. Number 3 in the country. And, of course, Wilson was the number 1 overall prospect this year, staying home to Florida. Bama's picked up a couple of players in addition to the JUCO Gagnon. They've also picked up strong safety Tolhurst. Ole Miss on the board. Somebody needs to check into some collusion there with Ole Miss getting on the board with the number 1 rated defensive end in the nation to bring some heat to bear on Florida quarterbacks, hopefully. Georgia has gotten on the board with 2 players, Augustine, a top-notch quarterback, and Benjamin, a defensive tackle. So Georgia with the beginnings of a nice class going down there in the Southeast Conference. Nobody else of note there. Let's move over to the Midwest. Ohio State is just kicking everybody's butt. Everybody hates Mike. We love him, but we hate him at the same time in equal proportions. It's 100% like and about 105% hate. Much like Darren, come to think of it. But Shapiro, he comes into Michigan and snags the number 1 ranked cornerback in the country. Thanks for that. That was a kid I was after at Michigan. Ohio State also came into Michigan and snagged Niles, and I thought I had a great shot to land him, so that was gut-wrenching for me to lose Niles. to the Buckeyes. Also, Michigan on the board with a defensive tackle and interior defensive lineman. Cincinnati got Hook, and then Michigan, we picked up another linebacker in Bledsoe, and Ohio State came in and also got a linebacker in Warren. So basically it's the Ohio State and Michigan show right now over in the Midwest. Cincinnati on the board. That's a very good pickup for the Bearcats. Ohio State also on the board a little farther down with Pope. That was somebody that signed this last sim, and that was somebody else that I was after. So when it comes down to these head-to-head recruiting matchups, unfortunately, Mike is kicking my butt pretty good. So kudos to him. Maybe he'll quit the league again. Hopefully not, but, hey. That seems to be the only way I can get over on Ohio State. Moving over to the Great Plains. Texas on the board with a JUCO defensive back. Always looking to try to beef up my secondary, knowing we're going to have to play the likes of Maryland and North Texas in conference now. And Maryland in postseason action typically. Texas Tech, what are they doing recruiting a receiver? I thought that was against their school bylaws or something. Myrle trying to change things up down there from his usual 12-headed running back attack, actually signing a top-notch receiver, the number one ranked receiver at his position. Who else was assigned? Rice. Rice was a surprise team this year. I wanted to see what Rice's prestige was because I did not know. A 68 prestige. So for those of you with mid-level, mid-major teams that say you can't get it done, Rice just said you're full of crap. They signed 3 players in 1 week, and look at who they get. Defensive tackle McMullen, the number 9 player at his position in the country. Also Oliver, the number 8 player at his position, outside linebacker, and the number 2 wide receiver in Larkin in the nation. Pretty good haul for the Rice Owls as a mid-major program, coming in and just snagging these players. And if you look at where they fall, they're not the top players, but they're right outside that top window, still in the top 10 at their position basically. But this is kind of like the guys that the big boys will be going after as their backup. And he snuck in and took them before, we fought out the top players and then started trying to get into this action. So heady play on his part. Anybody else? Oklahoma. I was really disheartened. I saw Oklahoma pop up on one of the guys that I was after with Air Force, and I went, well, that's not good. I guess I'm overshooting my coverage with Air Force if I'm going after people that Oklahoma's trying to get. But anyway, Oklahoma on the board with a Texas kid in the center McManus. Colorado on the board with a free safety Nye, number 10 player in the country at that position. And OU's kind of, let's see, what's Oklahoma's issue? I am not, I'll be very honest, and this is no disrespect to the last Oklahoma coach, but ever since James left, JCW left, and then Oklahoma got moved in, into the other division, the rivalry that I've had with Oklahoma has transitioned over to Texas Tech, to be honest. And Oklahoma has really been an afterthought. And for some reason, I guess because they are typically winning that North Division, and and I'm first or second typically. A&M with a great year last year. I still can't get over that. I hope that was a blip on the radar. Homer, go back to the basement where you belong. But anyway, for some reason, we have not really crossed paths with in-season scheduling, and I guess that's due to where we finish in the in the rankings or in the conference rankings. and haven't really played him over the last few seasons since they switched over to the other conference, typically only facing off in the conference title game. So, it's really boiled down to Texas Tech being my primary rival, trying to get out of the South Division. But he's still at an 88 prestige, so that's still up there. So it's a little surprising that he's delving, down into this level of player. But hey, I don't question JCW on anything he does, because he's just got a track record that is second to none. And if he, he's got a game plan in his head, and there's a reason he's doing what he's doing. So watch out for him. Hudson, tight end, number 12 tight end in the country, number 1 tight end in the region. And that looks like about it heading down that path there. Let's head over to the West to wrap up our recruiting preview overview. Cal, sandbaggers extraordinaire, have signed the number 2 player in the country in Pierce, defensive back. Again, that's kind of a need position when you're a team like Cal, and you know that eventually you're going to cross paths with the likes of Maryland and Baylor, possibly my Texas and Michigan programs. Some of these high-flying passing attacks. Of course, nothing touches Maryland. I mean, I'm Bush League compared to that. Oregon got an in-state guy here in Costa. Really solid running back. Going to look good in Oregon green. USC picked up a JUCO quarterback in Gurley. Cal also picked up Thomas, a defensive end. Stanford on the board with a defensive end of their own. And Fresno got on the board down here with the number 211 player, the number 20 ranked safety, tongue-tied there for a second, the number 20 ranked safety in the country in Garrett. So let's see, Cal also picked up a receiver, and that looks like about it going down. Unfortunately, in this recruiting, we're going to be mainly focusing on the top guys, but I will try to, see if I can pick out a few guys. There was, let's see. I'm trying to remember. Let me see if I can find him here. Yep, there he is. A running back out of Texas, Jay Foreman. Actually saw his name is George Foreman. And there's a receiver, and I do not remember his... I don't remember his last name, but his first name was Football. I kid you not. And I said, well, that kid must be a real football player if he was actually named Football. But I saw him going through the reporting list the other day, and that name jumped out. But George Foreman, albeit with a J, I thought that was funny. There were a couple of names that jumped out at me. Nothing as great as Pooh, but hey, nothing will ever touch that, I think. But George Foreman and a kid named Football. I thought that was pretty good. So anyway, that is how recruiting's looking. Outside of the usual suspects and cast of characters, I think the big surprise thus far would have to be the Rice Owls. Kudos to them for getting in and making an impact. It's just hard to remember. It's hard to remember everybody, and I apologize for that. So let's go to the coaches page, and Rice. I believe I know who that is, but I want to make sure. I'm thinking it's Mike Cart, MC Sim fan. Mike and I cross paths. I've known Mike for a long while, but he was the Ohio State coach 2 coaches ago, I think. It was him, and then he decided to leave, and somebody else came in, and then they left, and then Mike Dills came back to the league and took over. But the thing about Mike Cart, man, this is one of those guys that he is an excellent coach. He flies below the radar. You don't really hear a lot from him, but on the field where it matters, he makes a lot of noise. And this is his second or third program. Let's see, yeah, secondary team. So I think, yeah, one asterisk is a second team. So this is his third team. Heck, coming to Rice as a third program, Conference USA, and, putting together this kind of recruiting class or landing these kind of guys at Rice. Let's see, taking a look at Conference USA. Let's see, they went 12-2 last year, 8-1 at home. The number 28 recruiting class last year, and again, that's as a mid-major. So I mean, he's a 68 prestige, and he's a top 30 recruiting class. So that's just a guy that knows what he's doing, and doesn't try to overshoot his coverage early on, but is able to really pick up some of those. I call them crack guys, the guys that fall right between the cracks, between the big dogs at the top and the true mid guys that are going, farther down the boards. He just knows where to pick and choose these guys and reel them in. So he looks headed towards another really solid class this year. And, a 68 prestige, I don't know where that fits in the scheme of things, but Rice could be following in the footsteps of a North Texas when they're going to be gearing up to jump maybe into the Big Ten at some point, down the road, with some conference realignment if we continue to go that route. But something to look forward to. But he is certainly doing a bang-up job there. Well, hey guys, we're going to go ahead and cut it short here. Today is opening tip-off, by the way, for college basketball for the tournament. And if you were not aware, over at the sports bookie on the forums up here in the general section, Murray does a really good job. I guess he's got nothing else but time on his hands, but he does a great job getting all these games up and putting them in for voting purposes. And then Mike Dills gave everybody about $3,500. It's play money, but about $3,500 to come in and bet. If you've never done this before, when you log in, it's under your name. So basically, you would just click on one of these games, and this is what comes up. Now it'll tell you right here, you have this much cash, and you've placed one bet. So you can only place one bet per game. They have the odds here. Once you vote, it's locked in, and you can vote anywhere from $1 up to your full amount of cash on a single game. And then if you win, then you'll get the winnings back at whatever the odds are. If you lose, they take it out. And so the goal is just to give you some a way to play some gambling without actually risking real money. So and it gives us another way to have some bragging rights. So if you've never seen that, it is there. They do stuff for all kind of things. We did college football bowl games. We've done the Super Bowl, I believe. Murray's got the these games in. Here we go. The AFC and NFC championship games, divisionals, wild card. All kind of things that they put up here. Basically, any type of sporting event. The bowl games, going all the way back there. Now, of course, those are done, so it's only the current live games, the conference championship games. basically you can become a degenerate gambler without risk of losing any money. So take a look at that, and even if you've missed games that are going to be starting today, then you can always go and look, for games that are going to be coming on later tonight, tomorrow, and then hopefully, and I'm sure he will. But as these games play out, he'll be putting up the second round of games for the round of 32, and he'll take that all the way to the national championship game. So keep an eye out for that if you have not seen that in the past. That's under Sports Talk in the Sports Bookie sub-forums. Again, fake money, not going to win anything real, but it does give you limited funds. You don't have to buy those. Basically, Mike will chip some in to everybody periodically to get people that have lost all their funds back into the game. So just kind of keep tabs on that. We will probably try to do another radio show probably in a few weeks. Let a few more weeks of signing get together and see how teams are looking and where things are going at. From that perspective. And hey, thanks for checking it out. Kudos to Rice for getting on the board early. Cal probably says they're having a horrible recruiting so far, but as you can see, he's sandbagging once again, which is not surprising. And, in the case of Maryland, the rich get richer. And Texas, we just can't sign a quarterback for life, liberty, or the pursuit of being competitive on the field. And we're about to go on a decade of playing with a 3-star quarterback if we're not careful. So things are not looking good down in Austin territory. But, we recruit everywhere else well, but quarterback, I just have not been able to land one for quite some time. And also, you'll probably start seeing a few new teams. Some of the teams, just to kind of note, let me pop up into here. I do want to hit on a couple of things. So here's the prestige history. I know, let's see. Baylor. All right, so Baylor started as a mid-40s program, struggled along in that mid to high 50s range, bouncing back and forth, but now they've climbed up over 60. They have dropped back a little bit, but it isn't because they've had bad years. Big 12. They went 6-7 this year, but they're showing. I think that's Darren's second team, isn't it? Let's see. I know it is in the other league. Maybe I'm just getting my teams confused, which is possible. Baylor. No, that is Darren's second team. Darren has Baylor. In fact, I played Baylor a couple of weeks ago in the other league, and Darren had them up in the top 10 in the country, number 6, I believe. Just kicking a little butt with Baylor. So they're always a challenge, but he's gotten them up to, like I said, into that 60s where they're kind of entrenched. Now, another sub 500 year, and they could fall back a little bit, but I don't think they're going to lose a whole lot. Danny over at North Texas, I know we've covered him in the past, but they started off as a 30 prestige team. And, if you're a newer owner just getting into the league or have only been in the league for a couple of years, this is, Danny has been at North Texas, not since day one, because he actually started at South Florida. Here we go. They were a mid-50s. He built them up into a 60 prestige team, and then he left. And Danny's always been the builder. He's always liked to build programs. He's never really seen them through to completion. But with North Texas, he joined them and has elevated them from a from a 30s all the way up into the 60 prestige level. This year, he was telling me his budget exploded because he went over like the next threshold. He's got more money than he's ever had in all his and he's played this as long as I have, going all the way back to 2005 in the Gridiron Glory days when this game first came out. But he's never actually had a playoff game until this past year. This was his first one. Because, as I said, he's always been a low prestige team, building them up and then going back down for another team trying to find, the next challenge for him. So for him to see this team up to where it's at, where they've actually been promoted twice to 2 conference levels, all the way up to the Big 12, and then win the Big 12 North last year, was a huge accomplishment. And not only did he win the Big 12 North, I believe he beat Texas Tech that week. Yes, so he actually upset Texas. And was it really an upset? I think so, but he beat Texas Tech and clinched the Big 12 championship this year. So, hey, kudos to him. Then he went in and, he had never really had a playoff game. He beat Virginia Tech, which that's no small feat. So he got his first ever playoff win. And then I think... Yeah, Ohio State took him out pretty handily the next week, but Ohio State, of course, went on to win it all. That was a pretty heavy week of games there. But anyway, kudos to Danny. Let's take a look at Rice since we were looking at them earlier. There they are. So they started off as a 30 prestige team, and ended up getting all the way out to into the 40s, and now they're actually at a 68. So that's insane, a 38-point improvement. But you can see from our start in 2000, that's 26 seasons. So this does not happen overnight. And from 50, he got to 50 just 8 seasons ago. So 18 points of that happened in the last 8 seasons. It was a long slog, 19 seasons to get from 30 to 50. So that's a long climb through the mid-major ranks to get up to just average. But then you can see it starts happening pretty quickly. A lot of these teams, 51 to 62, 42 to 58. It can go backwards, 43 to 41, 42 stayed stagnant basically. And then I know there was some talk about one of my programs, my third program, Air Force, and I still don't have the highest prestige out there. Well, maybe I do. Actually, I do. I was 38 just 4 or 5 seasons ago, and now I'm at a 51. I think I've won 4 straight conference titles. But you can see I was not the highest prestige team out here. I was 3rd or 4th. I was 3rd in my own division, 4th in my own division, let alone the whole conference. But, I put together a couple of good recruiting classes and, have won a little bit and have seen some leaps and bounds. So, it's probably, they're probably right. It's about time for me to make that step up, maybe up to Conference USA and replace Rice as they move up somewhere, and maybe bring one of those really struggling Power 5 teams in the with a 30 or 40 prestige, and bring them down into the Mountain West here, into one of the lower conferences. So maybe there's something that we do need to look at there. But I really got off tangent. But I wanted to recognize a couple of these guys. We had talked about what MC Sim Fan was doing at Rice. I knew Danny had had a lot of success, and they're not the only ones, just the ones that had cropped up, right when I started thinking about it. But anyway, we'll probably come back maybe in a couple of weeks. We'll get a few more, maybe 3 or 4 sims under our belt, and then we'll come back and kind of update where recruiting's at. And then we'll do one at the end of recruiting and kind of recap everything and get us ready for the season. And then during the season, I guess what I am projecting with the radio, it depends on what kind of response it gets, if people like it, or if they don't like it. But we'll probably try to do one, at least one a week, and that way we can recap, say a couple of sims at the same time. I know I need to get with Sean again to try to get our recording on Skype dialed in. I think I've got it worked out, but do need to get him back on the horn. So Sean, reach out to me via private message whenever you're ready to have some time to do that. Of course, we're starting the basketball tournament today, so it may start being a bad time for the next couple of weeks as far as free time for anybody. So, hey guys, thanks for listening to the program. If you listened, if you didn't listen, well, hey, the hell with you, because you're not going to hear this anyway. No, I'm kidding. But hey, just trying to do something to help the league a little bit. Something I like doing. I do a lot of recordings for my YouTube channel anyway. So we will keep on kicking as we press on here in our, is it our 27th? Is it our 27th season now? Let's see. 25. We're starting 2026, which would be our 27th season of college football action here at WWCF. The brainchild of Mike Dills, of course, who put together Sim Nation, started this league, and everything that has begotten since that day. So thanks to him for putting together a community for us, for all of us text-based sim degenerates to hang out and make friends and play a little sports against each other and have some fun and kind of get away from the stress and realities of everyday life. I do want to leave off. I'll be turning 50 soon, and I know many of us are about the same age, or at least in the ballpark. I know Danny's a little bit younger than me, but I don't know if we have any extremely young people. We might, but I know most of us are kind of in that same ballpark. That 40 to 50 range, maybe the mid to late 30s. But as we start getting older, thoughts of our own mortality start to hit us. Monday, in fact, a girl that I went to high school with, her husband is we're all they're in my age bracket because her and I graduated high school together. I think he might be a year or two older than me, so he's close to my wife's age, and he had a stroke and was declared brain dead basically, and they took him off of life support yesterday morning about 9:30, and his body fought for about 18 hours, but he was already brain dead. They'd pretty much told her there was nothing they could do, and that taking him off life support was the right decision. And he finally passed away at about 9:30, about 9 o'clock about 3 o'clock this morning, so about 18 hours after they took him off of the life support machines. And you sit there and go, wow, I don't feel that old, but you just never know when your day's going to come. Certainly don't want to get into any religious discussions and offend anybody, but if you are a praying person, I just ask you maybe lift up a prayer to my friend and her family for what they're going through right now. And if you're not a praying person, I mean, I'm sure you can still have some sympathy and respect for someone losing a husband, a wife, and I think for most of us in the age bracket that we are, uh, that can certainly hit close to home. It's one thing to see our parents pass away, grandparents, the older generations, but when your generation is the one that starts to pass away, like I said, I think that kind of sets your own mortality. And so that's been kind of dwelling on me for the last few days, weighing heavily on my conscience. Um, and, just, just makes me think about a lot of things. Of course, I almost lost my wife a little over a year ago. Uh, so, I certainly give thanks for her still being here every day. But, it gives me, it also, where that ties in with Sim Nation and WWCF in particular, is that, there are a lot of you guys that I am friends with, quite a few of you guys that I talk to on the phone outside of the realm of Sim Nation, and, that we've become, pretty good friends, um, over the course of the years. Um, and I think that's one of the great things about sites like this, these communities, that we can actually develop friendships, even if it's with people that we've never seen and may never see in our entire lives. But it gives us a place that we can go and have some fun and get away from our realities, basically, and have some fun. So I certainly appreciate that. It's certainly something uh, that I need on occasion. And I'm sure we all have. I know we've seen people leave because of real life, and they've left. Some have come back, some have not. Um, and but I think it's nice just to have a place. Whether it's one league or 12 leagues or whatever you're doing, just to have a place to kind of go and get away, uh, and kind of put some blinders to the real world on for a little while, and and maybe let go of some of the stress of daily life. But so thanks to all of you for being there, being my friends, being my rivals. I joke about Ohio State and Maryland, but Darren and Mike are really good guys. Um, and certainly you know appreciate your friendship, appreciate you being there. Especially guys like Mike that I have really formed a good friendship with outside of this. Where we talk about a lot about a lot of stuff. Mike's been there for me through a lot of hairy times. That I've had to deal with. But anyway, enough serious and somber stuff. So somebody get out there and recruit some players. Somebody tell me how I can shut down Darren's defense. I'd be greatly appreciative. And if we can get Mike to quit again or quit doing exports or something, that might be good too, because he's just kicking all of our asses right now. Hey, thanks a lot for checking in with WWCF Radio, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.